Imagine you have a machine in your basement that prints legal money, unlimited, whenever you want. Now imagine you walk to your neighbor, knock on his door, and ask him for a loan. That is not a thought experiment. That is Tuesday for the US government. The United States is currently sitting on over $34 trillion in national debt. It pays roughly $1 trillion a year just in interest, and the entire time it has operated a central bank with the legal authority to create dollars from nothing. So why borrow at all? Why not just print what you need and skip the interest bill entirely? The answer is not stupidity. It is not laziness. It is a system, deliberately designed, quietly maintained, and carrying consequences most people never think about until it is too late. Here is how it actually works. When the government needs money it does not have, it does not call the Federal Reserve and ask for a transfer. Instead, it issues bonds, treasury bonds, essentially IOUs. It says to the market, lend us $1 today, we will pay you back later with interest. Investors buy those bonds. Pension funds, foreign governments, your retirement account probably. The government gets the cash, the debt grows, the interest clock starts ticking. Now the Federal Reserve enters the picture. The Fed, which is not technically part of the government but is not exactly independent of it either, can buy those same bonds on the open market. When it does, it creates new money electronically, from nothing. This is called quantitative easing when they want it to sound respectable, and money printing when they do not. So here's the loop. Government borrows, Fed buys the debt, new money enters the system, debt remains on the books, and somewhere in the distance, inflation quietly redistributes the cost onto everyone holding dollars. The reason they do not skip straight to printing is one word: credibility. If the government simply printed money every time it ran short, the market would eventually notice. Bond investors would demand higher interest rates to compensate for the risk. The dollar would weaken against other currencies. Foreign governments holding U.S. debt, China alone holds around $800 billion worth, would start quietly rethinking that position. The entire architecture of American financial dominance rests on one foundational belief: that the dollar means something, that the debt will be honored, that the system is disciplined. Borrowing instead of printing is, in a strange way, a performance of discipline, a signal. It says we could print, but we choose to borrow, which means we're serious people who will pay this back. The bond market is less a funding mechanism and more a trust mechanism. The uncomfortable math, though, does not care about signals. Interest payments on U.S. debt crossed $1 trillion annually in 2023. That's more than the entire defense budget, more than Medicaid. And it's not a fixed cost. It rises every time rates go up. The Federal Reserve spent 2 years raising interest rates aggressively to fight inflation, which means the government is now rolling over its old cheap debt into expensive new debt at the worst possible time at the largest possible scale. The debt does not have to be repaid. Every serious economist will tell you that. Governments are not households. They do not die. They can carry debt indefinitely as long as the economy grows faster than the interest compounds. That has been the working assumption for decades, and it held, mostly. But growth has slowed, rates have risen. The ratio of debt to GDP is now above 120%, a level that in other countries has historically preceded something unpleasant. Other countries, not America, people say. The dollar is the world's reserve currency. Everyone needs it. Everyone holds it. That gives the U.S. an extraordinary privilege, the ability to borrow in its own currency from a world that cannot afford to stop believing in it. Which makes you wonder, is the system stable because it's genuinely sound, or is it stable because enough people are too exposed to let it fail? There is a difference between a foundation and a collective agreement not to look down, and no one knows exactly how long those two things can keep feeling like the same thing.